Peter Marmion is a storyteller of the ages, and like any good storyteller, his is one that is rarely ever told. It is one of unassuming adventure, born out of curiosity and respect. Even his book Hidden Worlds does not dwell on his own experiences. Rather, he showcases the place that he fell in love with since childhood and the people that shaped the incredible landscape of southwestern Tasmania. I sat with Peter Marmion at his home in southern Tas, looking out on the western wilderness, and talked about how he came to be one of the greatest unsung storytellers. He also happens to be good at taking photographs. Please sit back and enjoy the conversation I had with Peter at his home. Thank you so much for inviting me down to your house and this wonderful garden.
Oh, it's an absolute pleasure to have you here, Pete. Yeah.
Could you just give a brief description of what you do, sort of your work life and your photography?
Yeah, well, I was a school teacher and school principal for a long time, and then I retired from that, and I've worked as a guide for about 8 different companies. I work now in southwest Tasmania, particularly Port Davey, which is a place I love. It's my favourite place on the planet. Because I'm guiding people a lot of the time, sometimes photography has to take a back seat, and looking after people is the main thing, of course, but because I'm down in those beautiful areas so much, I do have the opportunity to see the place in so many different moods, so I feel very privileged about that.
How did you make the move from teacher to guide?
Well, my son was in the Australian slalom canoeing team, and the principal's salary wasn't quite enough to help fund his campaigns and equipment until he got the big scholarship. So I started working as a guide in the summer holidays, and I loved it. So I decided that when I retired that I'd do a lot more of it.
When you first started guiding, who was that with, and what was the main sort of activity in that guiding?
Well, I started out with Freycinet Experience, and I've worked with them on and off for 30 years actually. And it was really great because I was there right at the start of Freycinet Experience, so we were building the whole project from the bottom up. And I was working with a wonderful woman called Joan Masterman, who is really one of the forerunners of ecotourism in Tasmania. At the time they didn't have many people who knew Freycinet, so instead of working at Cradle, I went over and worked with Joan at Freycinet. Yeah. Freycinet Experience has its own boat, and I spend a lot of time. I have my own yacht, and we'd take the people fishing, and they'd catch their dinner for the first night.
Wonderful.
Down in the Shooting Passage. Yeah, it was a really great experience.
And so that was the summer job?
Yep.
And then going full time, where did you end up?
Well, I've mainly worked for Paravion at their wilderness camp and do day trips down at Port Davey, and I work on board on their boat Odalisque, which I've been working with them for the last 11 years since that started, and lots of other companies working at Mount Field and up the east coast, the Tasman Peninsula, down here in the Huon Valley. But now I'm mainly working pretty much for Odalisque because it's grown, and Paravion because I'm getting older too, so I'm toning it back to sort of more manageable levels. But I spend about 100 days a year down at Port Davey, so that's an incredible privilege. So I get to see that place in all its moods, and as a photographer, that's just a golden opportunity.
100 days down at Port Davey.
Yeah.
Magnificent.
It's pretty special. I can't believe my luck, really.
Yeah. Now, I read in your book, you quite often spend long periods of time in Bathurst Harbour just waiting for the weather to change. Yeah.
We're pretty lucky, and we've had all these weather influences in recent years where there's a lot of easterly weather, and when you have easterly weather over Tasmania down there, it's often beautiful. So, yeah, we're pretty lucky with the weather, and we just keep going out no matter what the weather's like. Just put on coats and go for it.
With all your tours and guiding that you do, you must tell a lot of stories.
I think storytelling is the foundation of civilisation, and it's such an important thing. And when I was a teacher, I always told stories to the children in my care, and guiding is just another extension of that, really. So, you know, it's to be a guide is also to be an entertainer. I hate the word term raconteur because that sort of often has connotations of someone who never knows how to shut up. But storytelling is an important part of the role. And the people who come to these trips that I take, they're always really interesting people, so they've got lots of stories to tell themselves.
Yeah.
So it's, you know, and I love hearing those too. They're often the most travelled people you're ever going to meet.
And that storytelling then follows through into your photography.
Yeah, I try in my photos to have that storytelling aspect. Doesn't always work, of course, but that's often what I'm aiming for.
On photography, given what we're talking about here, that storytelling and the guiding seems to be so intertwined with your photography. What came first, the storytelling or the photography?
The photography, my father was into photography, and we used to commandeer our bathroom at home and do the black and white printing, and from when I was 8 or 9 probably. He built his own enlarger. He was pretty clever, unlike me in that regard. So I learnt from those basics all the way up. And when I was at uni, I was the secretary of the University Photographic Society for a few years, which was great, and learned a fair bit there. I've spent all my life out in the bush and on the water, and every time I've gone since I was about 12 years old, I've had a camera with me.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah. If you see some great opportunity and you don't have the capacity to capture it, it's really frustrating.
Was it a big camera or just whatever was at hand?
I had a Minolta in the early days. It wasn't that big, but I've always thought it's worth carrying the weight to have a really good lens.
Yeah.
So, and even though I'm getting older now, I still carry the weight. It's something that I'm not prepared to compromise on.
Yeah, especially when you're trying to capture something grand like you do.
Yeah.
A little Instamatic's not going to do it.
No, no.
Wow, so the Minolta 35mm?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I had an OM10 for a while, which was a sort of slightly more lightweight. And then I got into Nikon cameras, and I really love Nikon. And because I'm not a technical whiz, I find that I know how Nikons work, so I just stick with the devil I know. And also I really find, because I'm often out in the wild for a long period of time, Nikon batteries have an incredibly long life.
Yeah, okay.
And that's a huge advantage. Yeah.
Affected by the cold or the
No, I've never had any problems like that, and I'm fairly careful. I mean, one of the things that I always have with me, a pelly case, and I carry it. Lots of people think I'm carrying a defibrillator. I got quite famous walking on the overland track because everyone thought I was the defibrillator man. But I carry my camera in that pelly case, so it is safe. And also, often I find the best photographic opportunities just happen so quickly. You've got to be ready for that. Not take your pack off, get your camera out of your pack. So I'm always at the ready, really.
With a Pelican case?
Yeah.
Wow. Because I have one of those like strap mounts,
Yeah.
and when it gets really wet, I do worry sometimes because rain's pounding down on this camera, and it's really well weather sealed, but I still get a little concerned. So,
and I think that's the thing with modern cameras, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, they are so much more weather sealed than they used to be in the past. Me carrying a pelly case like this is probably a hangover from, 1975 when things weren't quite so good.
Yeah. So it's always in your hand there?
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
How do you go up hills?
Oh, just get good at... Sometimes in really difficult country, you've got to strap it on somewhere.
Yeah.
But generally, I just carry it like that.
Your early days with photography, what sort of pictures were you taking?
Often very bad ones. It was, in those days, it was taking slide films, and we'd go off for a, up to 2-week trip, and you might have 2 slide films of 36 exposures. And if you're really careful, you'd be really good at winding it on so you could sneak another 1 or 2 photos out of it. And then you come home all excited about the photos you'd taken, and then you'd have to send them away to Melbourne or Sydney and wait for up to a fortnight for them to return. And I've since converted all my slides electronically, and that was about 5,000 of them. And really, photography's come such a long way. A lot of them was just rubbish, really. But there was some gold amongst them, but not much.
Yeah, of course.
And I put a few of those photos in my book. Photos like the photo of the Crossing River Gorge. That photo was taken on slide film originally. We used to go on family holidays to places like Lake St Clair and Strahan and on the west coast. Well, my parents weren't really huge bushwalkers, but they did encourage us. And I first walked through the overland track when I was 14 years old. With a friend, Okay. And I've since got my children into it, because I think, and when I was a teacher, I was always taking children out into the bush, because I think it's such an important thing for young people to learn that in Tasmania we live in this amazing place, and it's also so good for people's mental and physical well-being.
Oh, it really is. Yeah.
Like sitting under a tree like this, you can't help but feel good. Even if it is trying to rain.
That's right. Well, it is out there. That's why I took my glasses off. I can't see anymore. So, big trips even at an early age.
Yeah.
And the overland track back then, that was pretty hard going.
Yeah, it was pretty muddy. The Pine Forest Moor section, I remember, not fondly, was really, really deep mud. It's since been rerouted to a better drained route, but in those days you just walk straight down the guts of Pine Forest Moor, and it was challenging.
Yeah.
And the south coast was similar. We were doing that from an early age as well, and sometimes you could go in up to your waist in a few places. Things have improved a lot.
And what did all your friends think about you taking these big trips?
Well, they were coming with me, a lot of them,
Oh, brilliant.
And I took my brother from an early age. We went to Federation, he was only about 15. I felt the responsibility when we got to the final climbing tower.
I can imagine.
And he ended up being the ranger in charge of the southwest, so it was sort of all destined to happen in a way, wasn't it?
Job done.
Yeah. My son, he is a canoeist, and he worked as a guide as well on the Franklin River. In fact, he was just involved in that huge rescue on the Franklin. That's been on Australian Story. And my daughters came with me on trips. My youngest daughter did the South Coast track when she was 9, I think, with me.
9?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but I can't imagine my girls doing anything like that.
And Claire, she's still a very avid traveller and bushwalker. She's just done Kilimanjaro. So it's a big thrill to see your family, getting the same sort of fulfilment out of that experience that you've had all your life.
It's really nice to pass that on.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. And that was an important part of my teaching, as I said. We used to take, when I was the principal at Franklin Primary School, we're forever walking all around these hills, and the final rite of passage walk was in grade 6. In the last few weeks of grade 6, we'd go down to South Cape Rivulet on overnight camp. It was just
it's magic,
yeah, it was a really wonderful thing to do with children. I bump into them now and say, "Oh, that was such a great experience." Yeah,
I've got to say that is one of my favourite places.
Yeah,
South Cape Rivulet and Lake Skinner for me.
Yeah.
And I love Mount Anne, but there's just something really soulful in these places.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's how I feel about Port Davey. I feel so at home there, and to me that's a great privilege too, that you can feel so at home in such a wild place. And I get, if I haven't been there for a few weeks, I get really toey to get back there.
So just going slightly off, the Neewana people, is that?
Needwanee people.
Needwanee people down there. How much influence do you think that they've had on your experience down there, given that they sadly are no longer?
It's an important question, and it's an important thing to talk about. And when I wrote the book, I was really conscious of the fact that I'm a white man and I had to be very careful what I wrote. And I always, whenever I'm with Tasmanian Aboriginal people, I just learn so much. And I was really fortunate when I was writing the book that Auntie Patsy Cameron, I sent her the manuscript and she very kindly read it for me, and I was really grateful to her for that, because I was feeling very dubious about whether I should even write about it. But she said to me, no, the worst thing you can do, Pete, is to write us out of the story. In fact, you haven't written enough about us.
Yeah.
So I went back and wrote some more. And when I first went into the southwest, I wasn't conscious of it, but now I am, that I'm following very ancient trails that the Aboriginal people had been walking for up to 42,000 years.
Yeah.
And in my travels in southwestern Tasmania, I've had the chance to to go into caves where there are petroglyphs all over the ceilings and walls, hand stencils, and really amazing things. Village sites, yeah.
All the things that we were told never existed.
Yeah, they certainly do. And I can feel their presence in that landscape. And they shaped the landscape with their burning as well. So, and that's still visible, even though Aboriginal people haven't been living in that tribal setting in southwest Tasmania since 1835, but you can still sense the presence of them.
Now, I did note in your book, wherever you could, you've given the traditional names for every place.
Yeah, some of those I asked Auntie Patsy's permission to use them, which she was happy to, because I think the Toogaloo is one of the Aboriginal names for Port Davey, and such a beautiful musical name, isn't it?
Yeah.
No, I think their language was had such a lilting musical quality to it. Like Bruny Island, their name for it is Lunawana Alona. It's just a gorgeous name.
It really is, yeah. When did you first become aware of the Indigenous culture outside of our less than adequate education?
Yeah. Well, I was always a really keen visitor to the Tasmanian Museum and Art Gallery, and although that collection had it in the 1960s, certainly wasn't perfect, but I was always really interested in it, and yeah, from a really early age actually. But it was frustrating because there wasn't much spoken about it, and since then I've just devoured any book that comes up, and I've got a library of books about Tasmanian Aboriginal people, and I've been very fortunate to, in all my bushwalking down in all over Tasmania for the last 55 years, to have had many opportunities to come across those aspects of Tasmanian Aboriginal culture. And I really crave to spend more time with Tasmanian Aboriginal people, because as I said, every time I'm with them, I just learn so much.
Look, I personally believe we should have at least some personal experience, at least through primary school, and really should be getting to know Tasmania through the eyes of the Indigenous.
Yeah, we used to, when I was at Lansdowne Crescent and at Franklin, there was a really marvellous Tasmanian Aboriginal learning unit at Margate, and we'd go there, and we'd go to places like Shag Bay and take a Tasmanian Aboriginal person with us to interpret the landscape to the children. It was a really valuable experience.
Yeah, it really gives a sense of empathy too.
Yeah. In the book though, there were opportunities that I could have put photographs of other examples of Tasmanian Aboriginal culture, but I didn't think that I had that right. In fact, some of the places that I go to rarely, I don't take any photographs of them.
I was going to ask if you felt that you shouldn't.
Yeah, I feel that it's wrong, and certainly to publish them would be very wrong.
For sure, because anyone gets a sniff of something, they're all over it.
Yeah, and even though these places are so remote and so guarded by the terrain and the climate, it still doesn't feel right.
With the Indigenous landscape, how much does that affect what you're photographing?
Yeah, I haven't thought about that. Yeah, probably not all that much. I'm sort of more looking for the patterns in the landscape and the play of light. It's light that and the weather. Like I'm really a student of Tasmanian weather as well, and it's one of the themes I try and portray in my photographs, trying to capture those landscapes in all sorts of varying weather conditions. And
So this is actually perfect.
yeah, I'm hoping that we can see some lightning of this on that ridge soon.
That would be amazing. Earlier you were saying, because we're in this wonderful location, we're on the doorstep of the World Heritage Area. You were saying how during COVID lockdown you'd walk out your front door and just take photos all the time.
Yeah, this garden it's quite big. It's 2.5 hectares, and I love photographing it. And occasionally I'll put those photographs up on my Instagram and Facebook sites. Because I'm here so much as well, you have the opportunity to capture it in all these different lights. And recently we've had lots of fogs, and the sun rising up through the fog and amongst all these trees. It's the sort of thing I'm always trying to work to capture those. And we've got some magnificent Eucalyptus feminalis here. They're huge trees. They're probably 35 metres, 40 metres tall, and they're one of my favourite subjects.
They really are just giants, aren't
they?
Yeah, and they're only little ones.
Yeah, when we fly into Port Davey, taking people in there, we were often flying over trees that are 70, 80 metres high, Yeah. It's just a fantastic sight. And a lot of Tasmanians don't appreciate this, but there are very few places in the world where you get such giant trees. Like the northwest of the United States and Tasmania and Victoria, it's about it, really.
Yeah, right.
And some of those trees are up to 100 metres tall. It's just... It's hard to get your head around it.
It is. I remember seeing, I think I was out in Mount Field, and there was a picture of one of the giant trees next to a picture of the casino.
Yeah.
And they're, kind of neck and neck.
Yeah, I remember going to a rally for the forest years and years ago. Lloyd Rees spoke at the rally, and they had this big balloon up on a very long string, symbolising the height of the tallest of the Regnan trees, and it was way above the casino height. Yeah. And it was a brilliant way to bring it home to people of, how special this place is. Like, it does my head in at the moment with this election campaign coming up. We're living on this amazing island, but so many of our political leaders have got no idea about it.
No.
And we're not hearing a whisper about environmental aspects. No. And we should understand that we're custodians of one of the most amazing islands on the planet. But that hasn't become widespread thinking yet, despite so many of our best efforts. Yeah. And I work a lot on conservation projects, getting rid of pest species off islands and both plant species and animals, rats and mice and cats. Islands are the answer, but for conserving many of these species. And, the problem with the deer population exploding, well, you don't hear anything about that. If we don't take the opportunity to get rid of things now, it's just going to become so difficult. Like rainbow lorikeets are an example there, At the moment they're in very low numbers, and we could get rid of them with a concerted effort, but there's no will from the any government, from any, to do that.
Yeah, well, we've seen what happened with the white cockatoos.
Yeah.
I remember in the 80s there was a small handful that we used to see down the Midlands, and now they're just everywhere.
Yeah. Come from farmers feeding grain to their livestock, and it's just created a population explosion. Yeah. Because when I was first bushwalking in Tasmania as a kid, you'd hardly ever see white cockatoos. There were just a few tribes of them in different locations around Tasmania. Yeah, how are we going here?
Good. The temperature's dropping. It's good though, it makes you feel alive.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. But I hope you're warm enough.
Look, I'm warm.
The fire's going up there.
Yeah, I'm thinking we might have to change location soon because it doesn't look like it's going to stop, is it?
Yeah, there is a
Small band.
lightning over there.
We've had to move thanks to the wonderful southwestern wilderness
Let
weather.
the storms blow their energy into you.
Yeah, that's right. And like you say, you can smell that coming through. It's just magnificent. But it's a good opportunity actually for us to move on to the more nitty-gritty with photography, because we've got prints here, we've got your gear, so we can actually talk about some of the photos.
Yep.
And on that, I'll just grab that book. And we've also got the book. The book. So this is your first book.
Well, I've written chapters for books before, and I've written scientific papers.
Okay.
I wrote with a friend, Tony Fenton, a chapter in a book that was put out by the Royal Society called Mapping Van Diemen's Land, and Tony and I wrote the section about mapping the southwest and west coast. Mm-hmm. But this is the first time that I've written a whole book. Yeah, I didn't want it to be just a coffee table book.
Yeah.
And in fact, for a little while I stopped all writing on the project because I suddenly got cold feet that the book was going to attract many more people to the area potentially. And then I got over that because the weather protects it anyway.
Yeah.
There's many days when planes and boats can't get into Port Davey. And then I just thought, well, people need to know what they've got. And I wanted it to be telling stories, so I split it up into stories about the landscape, the weather and climate, the people who I've met down there, and the wildlife. And wildlife is a particular interest of me. I'm a really keen naturalist, so. And also I wanted it to be a reference work, so there's notes in there, quite full notes about the history behind place names, the chronology, and lists of birds and amphibians, reptiles, etc. that you can find there. So it's sort of like pouring out my knowledge and the knowledge of my friends into this book.
From what I understand, quite a well-received book. Your first pressing went really fast.
I think the book launch was up there with my wedding as one of the great events. I put it out on my Facebook site and Instagram site that I was launching the book, and we had about 400 or 500 people there. So, and the first run, which was about nearly 1,100 copies, that sold out in 2 months, and then we printed another 1,100.
How long did it take you to put this book together? Because there is quite a lot of work in there.
In a way, you could say it's nearly my whole life, because some of the photos that are in there are 50 years old. I started it and started collecting stories and writing the stories down, which I actually found quite easy because I work there as a guide. I'm telling lots of the stories all the time, so they just flowed really well. And then, as I said, I had this problem of attracting people to Port Davey in big numbers that I wouldn't want to see happen, but then I got over that and saw that it wasn't really an issue. And so all up, probably it took about 3 years.
Okay.
And there's a lot of self-doubt, and I was helped by lots of people too, and there's a lot of generosity of spirit out there. So my friend Jimmy Ems, who's a professional photographer, he helped me a lot with the preparation of the photos for publishing, with selection of photographs. I had a really good editor. My wife Robin is also a very good editor, and every time I had self-doubt she joggled me out of that and on we went again. But it was very exciting. All my life I'd wanted to do this book about Port Davey because I've been going there all my life and I love it, and I just wanted to share it with people, and what a special place it is.
One of the last truly wild places, I believe.
May it long stay that way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Speaking of, when did you first hear about the proposed city?
I probably heard about that in the 1970s, actually, the Critchley Parker story, which is in the book, and it's an extraordinary story of a young man from Melbourne who'd fallen in love with a Jewish Australian woman, and at the time the Jewish people were searching for a homeland, and he thought that southwest Tasmania would make a wonderful homeland, and he perished down there, died of starvation and exposure in 1942, and his grave's down there. We regularly take people to the gravesite because it's such a bizarre and fantastic story. Yeah, which never would have worked.
No. Yeah.
He had all these fabulous dreams of perfume industry based on the local flora and fur industry. But because the whole area is so nutrient depleted, you have a lot of diversity of wildlife, but you don't have the biomass. So that was never going to work either, thank goodness. Yeah. So every time I go to his graveside, I look out over the largest pristine estuary in temperate Australia and think, well, I'm glad that didn't take off.
Incredible ideas.
It's what love will do, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I mean, it's a shame ultimately how it ended.
Yeah, I feel very sad. This idealistic young man who died in such a futile exercise. Yes.
On to the photography.
Yeah.
First up, we've got your camera here. What are we...
Well, the book, when I did most of the photography of the book, I used this Nikon. It's really versatile because this lens is a 18 to 200, and because I'm often driving boats, I've got to have a camera that's super flexible, and this camera proved to be that, and I love it. I love using it, but it has got a bit tired now, and so I just have recently bought this one, which is an upgrade. This has got a very flexible lens on it too, because I'm still working as a guide. This is a 24 to 200, because I think 18 is too wide anyway. It's just, I very rarely use a lens that wide. And I've also now, because I do love wildlife photography, but I've got a lens up to 600 now, so I want to do more wildlife photography. So I find it really challenging. And one of the big challenges is I love taking photos of birds in flight, but it's very challenging sometimes. And also I love trying to get really good photos of dark plumage birds, which is also incredibly challenging.
Especially in bright sunny days.
Yeah. And I did mention about the Pelly case.
Yeah.
It's very simple, but it works for me.
I mean, it's a good size, because when you said a pelican, I was thinking, because I've got a big case, I think, lugging that around, but no, that's a great size.
And also because I'm often on yachts and other boats, and salt spray and so forth, you want to minimise the time that your camera's out involved in that sort of environment. But often the best photos, are when it's really wild, so you don't want to deny yourself the opportunity either.
No, that's right.
A lot of the time I just use the effects button on this, which I feel like I'm cheating sometimes, but not all the time. Sometimes I go into manual ones, aperture priorities. With wildlife photography, you've got to be, really on the ball with your settings, with that sort of thing. And often, we're crewing the boat as well, so, again, the safety of your guests is paramount, but because you're a photographer, you want to try and also capture those images that are just there for the taking.
That's right. And do you take photographs of your guests as well for them?
I sometimes take photographs for the companies that I work for, and we just pick out the best ones. But I'm not really that experienced with portraiture and things like that. It's another area of photography that I'd like to do more of. I did a little bit. We did, a journalist and I published a series of articles in the 40 South magazine, and one of them was about the people. And I went around and took photographs of some of the famous characters of Port Davey and their settings, and and I found the challenge really great.
I kind of like it how it's a bit like wildlife photography for me, because I don't like to just sit people there and tell them how to sit and everything. I like to just get them in situ. So for me, it's like taking a photograph for a wallaby or something, and you've got to just grab that moment when it's there.
And Andrew Wilson is a friend of mine, and I've done quite a bit of work with him over the years, and he's a masterful portraiture photographer, and so I've learned a bit from him, but I've still got a heap to learn. Yeah.
I find it very difficult because for me, it's about interacting with people and people you don't know as well. So
you got to get them comfortable.
That's right, and it's a two-way street.
Yeah,
you've both got to be really comfortable with the situation, and
and sometimes you feel like you're being a voyeur, you know.
That's right. But I was thinking in that situation where you're guiding, there's at least that level of comfort already, and
you get the people's trust. You know, over the course of just a few days in that setting, and with people having these wonderful experiences, that feeling of friendship and trust develops very quickly.
Because you've always got that camera on hand, they're not surprised, are they?
No, that's right.
Would you consider yourself to be an opportunistic photographer?
Very much. As a teacher, I always liked those, just a flash of opportunity comes up, and it's often the best teaching you're going to do on that particular day. I like the spontaneity of it. And to me, photography can be like that too. And I'm quite a restless person. I'm a bit hyperactive, so it comes to mind Peter Dombrowski's comment about how he likes to go into the wilderness open to all possibilities, and that often is in my mind. And when I'm moving around through the wild country, I'm open, I hope, to all opportunities. And I'm lucky that because I know Port Davey so intimately, it's a really big help with my photography, because I know where the good photos are going to be. And often you go into a new setting and you're disappointed with your photographs because you're actually learning about the landscape. And I think you've got to go through that apprenticeship, but also have that openness to whatever might happen.
Have you ever seen something that was a failed photograph, and every time you go back you're looking for that same sort of those conditions?
Yeah, in fact there's a photograph here. It's a place that I go to, and I used to call it my secret place, but now I often take people there because it's just a really wonderful opportunity. These ancient melaleucas here, they might be a couple of 100 years old, and I always look at them and think, how many storms have they seen? And this is on the Celery Top Islands down in Bathurst Harbour. And I go back and back all the time because I just love this spot. And I have taken a lot of bad photos here, which have since been ditched, but every now and again you get really lucky with the quality of the light.
This one's magnificent, just the colours that are coming through on these ripples and the clouds up over the mountain there.
Yeah, I often like imperfect reflections.
Yeah.
Right. And down there you often get a lot of perfect reflections in that dark water.
Sure do.
But to me, like, this rippling effect is, to my mind, more pleasing.
And so you go into these places hoping to get another good photograph?
Yeah, I love repeated patterns. I like it in music, and I like it in landscape photography as well. And I love the country down in the southwest where you see ridge on ridge on ridge. And often you need a particular lighting quality to be able to properly capture that. And there's one series of ridges that I've been photographing for 50 years, and maybe I've taken 5 photos that I'm happy with about. And I think there are 16 layers of ridges in it.
So we've got some pictures here. Are these like your favourites you've got, or?
Sometimes.
Sometimes?
Yeah. It's funny because in the book, most of the photos I'm still quite pleased with, but some of them I think, I don't know why I put that one in. And this, we talked earlier on about I like telling stories, and I like trying to take photos that tell a story, and this is a boat that I've travelled around the west coast on with a fellow called Ian Johnson, and he's very picturesque boat. I like taking photographs of boats as well.
Yeah.
And this one is at Matsaka Island in the gulch there. And whenever we go past there, if the weather conditions are okay, we take fresh food to the volunteers on the island, because we think they're doing a great job for Australia, so we should support them. So if we've caught fish, we take them fish.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, fresh fruit and vegetables, because they're there for 6 months at a time. And you would get sick of eating rice and pasta. And, yeah. And I was really lucky here, because I think one of the things that makes this photo more interesting is the flight of the birds here, wheeling around on the wind. And I sometimes like to have people in pictures as well. Often it gives a feeling of scale.
I can imagine without the people in there and without this dinghy, it looks quite small. But
Yeah. This is an example of what I'm often trying to capture, this telling a story in a photograph.
Yeah. So what else do we have? Is this New Harbour? No.
Well, this is New River Lagoon, actually, the outlet to the sea. I actually had to rush ahead to get this photograph before there were any footsteps in the sand. But I just like this because of the peacefulness of it. It sums up. Peter Dombrowski's first book about Tasmania was called The Quiet Land. And I often talk to guests about that, because often on calm days, the only sound is the sound of birds. It's wonderful. And that was that particular day. It was just so still. And this was an example of this opportunistic photograph. I love autumn light, and this was a burst of sun through the thick clouds onto the Norrold Range, which is a very remote mountain range in southwest Tasmania. I have climbed up on there. This was just a right place, right time, which I guess a lot of my photography is, because I'm not a great technical wizard with photography, but I just get lucky sometimes.
I think there are two schools of photographers. There's this, which is what I love to do. So I figure you go to a place and you see what happens.
Yeah.
Or you've got those that have the perfect picture in their mind and they'll sit there for days waiting for it.
Yeah, I'm too hyperactive for that. And this one, it's a bit more of a run-of-the-mill photo, but again, it's sort of autumn light, showing all the different facets of the rock on Mount Rugby. Just one. And this is called Forest Lagoon, which is a great reflecting pool often, and it's near where the Paravion standing camp is. It's a really wonderful place. And I get to take lots of artists and photographers down there, and they just think all their Christmases have come at once when they wake up at dawn and have a scene like this. Before the sea breezes come and so forth. And of course, like lots of photographers, most of my photography is done early in the morning and at dusk. So and Southwest Cape is one of my favourite photographic venues. Such a wild place. And I've been to Cape Horn.
Have you?
And this is Australia's Cape Horn. It's such a wild place. And I was just lucky to be out there when this yacht, which is quite a large yacht going past, which gave the scale to the Cape.
Sure does.
And this rock is different to most of the rock in southwest Tasmania. This is granite. The end of the Cape is all granite.
Is it really?
Yeah, whereas most of southwest Tasmania is quartzite.
Yeah, wow, I didn't realise. I know there's that big divide in the state between the dolerite and granite and the quartzite.
And it's really noticeable when you fly there by plane, because the dolerite gives rise to quite fertile soil, so you have really thick forests. And as you fly along the south coast, you go past New River Lagoon, and that's where the geological divide is. And then suddenly you're in the quartzite country, and it completely changes. The landscape is so different.
When I first saw that change, I was just blown away.
Yeah. And I'm really interested in geology and geomorphology. So if I see rocks of great interest, then I try and use them in foregrounds as well in my photographs. Because that's part of telling the story too, an ancient story.
Yes.
Because those rocks, those quartzite rocks in southwest Tasmania are some of the oldest rocks on Earth. They're up to 1.3 billion years old.
It's incredible, isn't it? Because Tasmania was thrown between North America and Antarctica, wasn't it?
It's an extraordinary story of Tasmania's journey around the globe.
Yeah.
To think that it was once attached to northwestern United States and to Canada. In fact, to Antarctica. And our attachment to Antarctica was really recent. If you were at Port Davey 60 million years ago, you would have been looking out on the high mountains of Antarctica. Because Antarctica unhinged from Australia from the Western Australian end first and the Tasmanian area last. And we're a little bit of Australia and we're a little bit of Antarctica, and it's just an incredible story. The geology of Tasmania is so complex, and I think that can add a lot of interest and quality, hopefully, to photographs.
I went to Square Tarn. I don't know if you know Square, southern end of the Picton Range.
Yeah, it's a beautiful place.
It really is.
Yeah.
And when I first got there, seeing all the landscape looked like molten rock, and it's completely different to everything else I'd seen.
Yeah, that's a really wonderful route there, isn't it? And then you go down into that little gap between the two areas of rock.
Yeah.
I love those views into the southwest wild country from like Hart's Mountains and from there where we're talking about, because it makes the wild country look so vast. In Federation, you feel like you can reach out and touch it, and the Western Arthur's there. It gives me itchy feet talking about it.
You'll be down there soon enough, won't you?
Yeah, I will.
We've touched on a couple of other local photographers. Who are your favourite Tasmanian photographers?
Well, I was really fortunate when I was very young. I met Olagus Trahanis. He used to go around to town halls and church halls and show photographs of southwest Tasmania, particularly Lake Pedder, which I was lucky enough to go to a few times. And so meeting Olagus was an incredible inspiration, because in those days the work that he was doing was, there hadn't been anyone doing that sort of thing since the Spurlings really, and this long gap, and then suddenly Olagus came along, and he was a mentor to Peter Dombrovskis, of course, whose work is an inspiration to so many of us Tasmanian photographers.
Yes.
I mean, there's so many people that's work that I admire. I mean, Rob Blaker's work is extraordinary. Grant Dixon's photographs, on and on, really. But I trace it back to Olagus, and that's about when I was starting to go out into the wild country. That I would have been about 10 or 11 then, and getting rather itchy feet. And since then I've been influenced a lot too by friends of mine, Jimmy Ems, who helped me a great deal with Hidden Worlds, and Richard Bennett is a really good friend of mine, and I've learned a lot from him as well. But I think in Tasmania it's great that there are so many high-class photographers, and I don't count myself as one of those. I see myself as more of a storyteller more than anything, but that recent book by Martin Hawes is just extraordinary.
Oh, I love that.
The quality of that work is amazing.
He's highly underrated.
Yeah. And the effort that went into getting some of those photos, and with Grant as well, of course. Bob Brown's photos as well.
Yeah, of course. I do forget about Bob Brown being...
He's a man of many talents.
Yes.
So there's multiple influences, I guess. And I'm a collector of Tasmanian books as well, and particularly books about the wild country of Tasmania, so keeps me poor. That's why I keep working, even now.
But rich inside.
Yeah. I'm also influenced too by artists, and I over my years of being a guide, which is like 35 years of guiding, I've had the opportunity to take many photographers and artists down to Port Davey, and it's great to share the place with them. And Jenny Riddle, who has she's won the Glover Prize once, and she's won the People's Award a couple of times. I've taken her down there several times, and I I really enjoy taking artists there because they help me with my photography as well. I'm helping them find the places that they want for the venues for their photos, but they're also teaching me at the same time. And I just took Joan Humble, who's a very well-known Tasmanian landscape artist, down to Port Davey about a month or so ago, and she's also a fine photographer. And Jenny pretty much only paints Port Davey landscapes these days as well, and her work is exquisite.
Speaking of exhibitions, do you have any plans for one yourself? Because you've got quite a body of work.
Yeah, not really. I do have plans to write another book though, because I've just finished walking around the entire Tasmanian coast, and I want to put a book together focusing on, well, the photographic side of our magnificent coastline, but also featuring the stories and the people that I've met along the way. And I'm sort of well into that project now. Hopefully I'll finish that within the next year and have another book out there.
Incredible.
So I'm more focused on that.
That's quite a large project.
Yeah.
How long did it take you to make your way all around the coast? Obviously it wasn't all at once.
No. The total number of days that I took to complete the circumnavigation is 190 days. Yeah, it's a very long way. And as I often say to guests, a lot of people think Tasmania's small, but it's not. It's a very big island. It's the 26th largest island in the world.
Yeah.
It just looks little because it's sitting down there underneath the biggest island in the world.
That's right.
Yeah, so it took a long time. A lot of it was quite easy, but the West Coast in particular was very, very challenging. And I'm glad I got it done before I got too much older. And I'm going back now to lots of my favourite venues there, to get better photographs of some of the places.
Yeah.
And I'm currently waiting for a big storm, and I'm going to go up, when that happens, I'm going to go up to Temma and Cooter Rocks and the Arthur River and Trial Harbour's another place I love to go to when there's a big storm on. So I'll keep going back and back. In fact, I never wanted to finish the project really. It's just, it's been wonderful.
So thank you so much once again for inviting me down here, and thankfully warm fire out of the squalls that we had, and now of course it's absolutely beautiful outside.
Yeah.
Marvellous part of the world you live in.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to chat with you, Peter. I've really enjoyed it, and it's been lovely to have you down here as a guest.
Yeah, thank you.